With the birth of the Cinderhulk enchantment, a new strategy within League of Legends has been born. And I'm not talking about just the new tank jungle meta that's going around. I'm talking about Cinderhulk in the top lane. Today we're going to be looking at why we're taking a jungle item into the top lane, why it's actually really good on particular champions, what you need to have in order to use it within the top lane, benefits it has for your team, and what we need to how to play against this, as well as perhaps a discussion of what needs to be done about the item. So, hello there guys, this is CD Mangaka. Let's get into Cinderhulk. So, in the 10th week of LPL, Flandre, the top laner for Snake Gaming, uh, suddenly locked in a Shyvana, and his summoning spells were Teleport and Smite, which is unusual for top laner to have. This is the first instance that we've seen of Cinderhulk top lane. So what the premise behind this approach is that you take a scaling tank who likes to stack health, who is also an incredibly powerful farmer and split pusher, and you take them into the top lane, and then you just push everything. Your whole goal in that game is to farm. Reason being for that is that you get a lot of gold from farming, you get a lot of XP from farming, etc. But the reason why you take Smite in this case is so then you can buy Cinderhulk. Cinderhulk is an incredibly cheap item. It only costs like 2,250 gold, and it gives you 300 base health. It gives you 25% bonus health for every single 100 point of bonus health that you get, whether it's from runes, masteries, and health items, you gain an extra 25 health points from it. Okay. And on top of that, you also get an Immolation Burn passive, which is like the Sunfire Cape Aura, but it's a little weaker than that, honestly. And you also get access to actually you're required to take Smite in order to use this, okay? So Cinderhulk is an incredibly cheap item that's great for super tanks. It's helped out the jungle a lot. In fact, it's completely caused a complete change in the meta. In terms of jungling, now we're seeing junglers like Gragas, Sejuani, sometimes Zac, depending on the team, coming out and being incredibly successful to the point where bruisers who used to build the Warriors enchantment are now actually just starting to build Cinderhulk instead of it, if we ever do see them. Rek'Sai, Vi, J4, those Lee Sin isn't even seen it, but those three junglers, if they are seen, it's usually because one of the three aforementioned junglers, the Zac, the Gragas and the Sejuani, either aren't played by those teams or are banned away. Then you go over to these bruisers, but they continue to build the Cinderhulk item just because it is so powerful. It gives you a pretty solid early game and helps your early clearing, and then you scale so well with it into the late game that there's almost no point in picking up Bruiser in the Warrior enchantment and going for an all-in early unless you put out so much pressure in the early game, like a couple of junglers can, that it's not worth picking up. Warriors is not worth picking up. There's no other enchantment unless you're an AP jungler that's worth picking up over the Cinderhulk. So, why are we seeing it in the top lane? Like kind of got talked about, there's a strategy to this method, okay? Top lane Hecarim has shown that we can play some top lane champions without having flash. Top lane Hecarim revolves around taking Ignite and Teleport. He doesn't need flash in lane. Reason for this being is that he has his E for movement speed in order to get out of any sticky situations. You know, he's just incredibly fast and mobile with it. And so if the enemy jungler comes in for gank, he can just E away and then you'll never catch him. Likewise, once he hits level 6, then you get access to his ultimate, which is a pretty short cooldown, like roughly 2 minutes, a minute and a 30-second cooldown on it. It's within that ballpark. And it has such a great distance covered by it that you don't need flash in order for safety. So if you get into a bad situation, you can just burn your ultimate instead of burning flash. So that's like the reasoning behind Hecarim top with Ignite rather than needing flash. This gives him extra kill pressure in lane and gives him incredible snowball potential. So it makes sense then that because we established that we don't need flash on some top laners, we can then perhaps change up the other summoner spell. Teleport is a must. Teleport is a must in the current top lane meta. It's too valuable not to have. So we have to give up flash. What Flandre then did with his debut of the Shyvana top with Smite on Snake A is that he's shown us a way that we can use Cinderhulk in an abuse case, rather, okay? And the reason why I would call it abuse case is because it's intended as a jungle item, and that's a discussion I'll save near the end of the video. So the idea behind Cinderhulk top is that you take a top lane champion who can lane without flash, who can lane safely without flash. So you need someone with incredible movement speed or a built-in escape on a really short cooldown. Hecarim fits that bill with his E and his ultimate, and Shyvana hits that bill with her ultimate and her W. The movements become for W, the ultimate being her dragon's descent to jump away. That's why we saw Shyvana at first. And there's really no other top lane champions that come to my mind which can get away with running that particular spell. Let me think if there's another one. You can't really, because Siam can be camped, Mundo can be camped, Rumble can be camped, and let's see. So, like, let's talk about Mundo. Okay, Mundo would be a great champion to build Cinderhulk on. He would love to stack that health, get extra regeneration out of it. But because he has to take teleport, he'd have to give up his flash, and he has no escape. So it's just super easy. You'd be begging to be camped, and you would be getting so often in camp so hard that you would just do nothing in the game. So Mundo cannot play with in the top lane with Cinderhulk's might. So he doesn't get the same access to the golden XP that a top laner has. We have to remember that the jungle is still comparatively less uh, rewarding than a solo lane is. You don't get as much farm, you don't get as much experience. So with Cinderhulk being such a cheap item, just such great scaling, and it's meant to be that so that these junglers can get extra boost, by having a way to take it into this environment where the champion using it can get all this extra stuff from it, all this solo lane XP, all this solo lane farm, and get these massive leads that junglers would never get their hands on unless they were just getting fed out of their mind, then we get into this case where we're actually abusing Cinderhulk. And then we're having this accelerated growth curve to where we're getting like 2 item complete, like really expensive items, okay, like a 20-minute Triforce Cinderhulk Hecarim, like a 15-20 minute Cinderhulk Randuin's Omen Shyvana, and like they're scoring like in the case of the Shyvana on Flandre, at about 20 minutes he had 2 items that had 3,000 health, and not one of those items was a Mormox. It was just the Cinderhulk and the Randuin's Omen plus whatever his masteries were giving him, and maybe any runes that he had. But there's the potential that you can go incredibly tanky with it, okay? So, Cinderhulk gives you several options with it, okay? But to push it to the fullest usability, you have to be able to have a fast clearing champion. Reason for this is that you can then push your lane. Shyvana and Hecarim both have incredible wave clear. It can push lanes out easy. So what happens after you push that wave into the enemy tower? And they're forced to deal with the minion waves under the tower, or else they lose out on that golden XP, then you go farm the jungle. Then you can rotate into your own jungle, claim up your own camps. If you're on blue side, it's even better, because then you can just rotate down to Gromp, smite the Gromp because you have smite, and gain his poison damage buff, which is going to scale better with the fact that you're building Cinderhulk, and therefore you're getting even more HP. Now, in the current competitive scene, we're seeing play on 5.6, so the Gromp poison passive is like at 10% bonus health rather than the 5% it is in 5.7. So we'll have to see how if the strategy endures after that nerf, because that's a huge amount of return damage and like makes it impossible for anyone to approach you without taking so much retaliation damage. So you push out the top wave, you go into your jungle, you clear that, and you get the extra gold from Machete on that, so those jungle camps are incredibly valuable to you. You get to use Smite on them so you can get extra experience out of them, or even secure the buffs for yourselves, okay? Now, with the top lane tanks building these things, the summoning spell, the Smite upgrade, that's the word I'm looking for, that they will always take is Skirmisher Saber. Reason for that is then you have this incredible dueling item, okay? You basically get Ignite because there's a true damage burn on it. It's a little weaker than Ignite, admittedly, but then you also get 20% damage reduction on the target which you smite. Take this into a late game team fight, and the enemy aided carry won't deal any damage to you because you're going to have a whole lot of health, you're going to have a whole lot of resistances, and you're going to reduce their damage by 20%. It's ridiculously OP for that sense, for a top laner to be able to use it in that sense, because they're going to get massive amounts of farm, they're going to get massive amounts of XP, and with that spell, they will not die in a team fight. Furthermore, because it's being used on these farmers, or on these top laners who can lane safely without flash and then go off and farm everything incredibly fast, you get huge gold leads, okay? In the case of, to use a professional example, KT Rolster versus Jin Air in the week 12. Someday the top laner for KT took Smite Hecarim top lane. At 10 minutes, he had only 20 CS up on his enemy laner, okay? So you figure 20 CS difference, average out like average minion to like 20. So I'm trying to do the math right now. It's a little harder. 20 times 20 is really 4,000. No, 400. Okay, so you'd be looking at like something like a 400 gold differential, okay? And then you got to take into consideration the fact that Trace, the top laner for Jin Air, also had an assist on him. But the gold lead difference in terms of Sunday was actually 700. He added so much extra gold because he was able to go off and farm jungle camps, which at a baseline are more valuable than minions. And he was also getting, at some point, he started to get the extra gold out of them with the fact that he picked up Machete and had skirmishers, okay? By 20 minutes, he had completed Trinity Force just by farming. He wasn't getting any kills, no assists. He just farmed up to a Trinity Force, and he would just push out the wave. He would rotate into the jungle. He just continually farmed his own jungle. Like, oh, I can't even recall KT Rolster's jungler's name right now. His name escapes me. But he didn't even touch his topside jungle. He never farmed his Grump or his Wolves. It was all some days. And within 10 minutes, after the 20-minute mark, he had Cinderhulk Triforce. By 30 minutes, he had farmed Frozen Heart and Spirit Visage, or Visage, whichever pronunciation you prefer. And that's the problem with like the setup of Cinderhulk top, is that by getting a small advantage and by pushing out the wave and dealing with the enemy, you can then get so much map pressure. You can steal from the enemy jungle, putting their jungler farther behind. Just after you put their top laner into a situation where he can't respond to you, you can go farm yourself up with very little counterplay with it, because the enemy team would have to like constantly harass you. But if you're going off in your jungle, then you've already pushed out your wave and they can't invade you at all. And then you get all the extra stats from it. You get the ability to reduce the enemy carry's damage, and then you get all these free stats of health at an incredibly high rate. It's pretty OP, in my opinion. Now, again, I'm talking within terms of 5.6 and 5.7. Some of the synergy with the Grump Smite, with the Grump buff, has gone down, so there is some of the free damage going away from the build. But like the scaling and the gold generation and the clearing is still there for it. Which, let's see, I think I've been over most everything. Brings me to a point of what we need to, like, or what discussion we can have about this. Then the question being, is Cinderhulk top lane an appropriate thing to have? My personal feeling on this right now is that, I don't agree with it. While I do think it's cool, and it's kind of like the players finding a new way to use something, it shows really how powerful this item is, and how disgusting it really is in terms of how much it shifted the entire meta. I feel like a lot of people right now are excited that, hey, we're getting all these new camp, like Urgot's a pick, he's got a 50% win rate. He's like a really good pick. I was like, fucking Urgot, who would have called that? And all these other new champions coming in after was like the same old J4, Lee Sin, Rek'Sai, it's a bunch of different things. But then you gotta look at the stats, and we've just rotated through champions. It's Sejuani now, it's Gragas now that are ruling the jungle picks. Between some teams, Sejuani's kind of like the top one. Other jungle picks, I would honestly just give it to Sejuani, like straight up. I think she's just the best jungler that you could play as right now. Or Nunu. Nunu would be in the top two as well. Gragas probably. I would say that's like the trinity right there. But with those shifts in junglers, and the fact that the item is spilling over to the top lane in this abuse cases, which it's very small abuse case, okay, because like I've established, you can only use it on a particular couple top laners. And so far, that just seems to be Shyvana and Hecarim. I can't theorize another top laner which can use it well that's currently meta. Sion, you can't because he needs flash. Mundo needs flash. Rumble doesn't stack health, he builds AP. Renekton just isn't really too good right now, and he likes to have at least one damage item in there. Shen just isn't really good at this point in time, and it doesn't really help out the issues that he has. That's all I can think of at the moment. Maybe some others economy, but like in terms of top lane tanks, okay. But the fact that you get this item, which was designed for the jungle, okay. Smite has always been a spell for the jungle, and we've seen experiments before where some other laner has tried to take a smite in order to like abuse like chilling smite, things like that, and it doesn't work out just because it just hurts them too hard. But there isn't a punishment for this thing. There isn't a punishment for taking smite. It's just like a better option to take. Shyvana and Hecarim don't need flash, and then you get so much versatility out of smite that it just really makes it just like too good to pass up, in all honesty. And the fact that, again, like we're seeing this built in situations where the item wasn't designed to, which, okay, it's cool to kind of see some innovation, but like innovation with an item is always risky because you never know if it's just like finding a new way to use something really cool or if it's just so broken that it's the best thing to abuse. Like Black Cleaver of Season 3, I kind of feel like Cinderhulk is trending towards that. Now, what I want to see personally, or what I think needs to happen or to curtail us back, okay, is a nerf revolving around Skirmisher Saber to reduce the, and I think it's already talked about changes to Skirmisher Saber, and then like this happened with it, okay, but like changes to that or some nerfs to that to reduce like how tanky these super tanks can be, will be able to help, as well as reduce some of the dueling pressure that the item gives when you build Cinderhulk. And then also Cinderhulk, it needs to be nerfed in some way. I don't think you need to nerf the damage on it. That I do think that probably the bonus health needs to be nerfed on it, in my personal opinion, just because it scales way too well. That's my feeling of where the item is strong. And then And then I don't know if that'll be enough to even take it out of the top lane. If the Cinderhulk top lane meta could, or like these picks of champions who can play with Cinderhulk top continue to exist, and it's only on those particular champions, and after the item gets nerfed, then it's not like this really snowbally out of hand kind of a thing. Then okay, and then I think it will be in a really great place to see stay in top lane. As the item is right now though, and how this strategy is functioning, it has too much power. It's too easy for it to snowball. It's too easy for it to get such a huge gold advantage just by farming like a madman and enabling that ability. And then you get extra just stats out of that. It's a little too overtuned at this point, and I'm honestly hoping / expecting some nerfs to be coming in for it. That said, I'm hoping that Riot just doesn't just gut it and say, all right, we're done with tanks. It's back to what we had in 5.4 and all that stuff. Just I want to see a more the diverse meta that we were really hoping for. Like instead of tanks taking over, rather than they just come up to meet the bruisers, and then everybody gets to play a fair fucking game. So that's my thoughts on the Cinderhulk top lane meta, guys. Thank you for watching this video. I have an article on Gold Pretend going into a little more detail about the Jhin Air and the Snake cases, as well as a little more of a coherent discussion about the Cinderhulk top lane usage. So if you want to understand what it's about, if you kind of want to review for yourself and you can like see kind of what like in-game examples of what I'm referring to, head on over to Gold Pretend. Link is in the description. Thank you guys for watching this. This is Mangaka signing out.